Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Roach Wiggle, July 20th, 2023. I am. Das ist laut. What does that mean? Loud? Good? Welcome, everybody. Loud. Satchel, I just texted you your tracking information, by the way. Oh, there's emojis now. I didn't see that before. Hello, Zen Monkey, Silver Tears, Tennyson. Seems to be everybody for the moment. I am once again phoning in another live stream. I had to get up early for reasons I will eventually make clear, really early for reasons I will make clear in a couple weeks. And sent out a lot of boxes today, so I'm quite tired. And looking forward to this evening, assuming I don't fall. I'll probably go to bed kind of early, like 11 or midnight tonight. Early for me. And before that, I got to do all my husbandry within the next 5 days, 5 to 7 days. So I'm starting in the office. I'll probably get like half the office done tonight, and then the rest tomorrow, and then start on the basement and the whatnots. And then this weekend, I actually have 2 outreach events back to back, one on Saturday and one on Sunday here in the Metro Detroit area. If anybody wants to, if anybody's local, you are welcome to come to them. It's Bugging Out, which is on Sunday at the Detroit International Wildlife Refuge, and Bugtopia, which is Saturday somewhere in Hines Park in southeast Michigan. Yes, Tennyson's very local. So let's see what's been up with me lately. Let's see. I didn't do the stream last week because I actually got a big box to Chris, and he is very busy lately, and I'm going to send the rest of the box when he has a little bit more time to devote to putting things away, since he cannot help himself at auctions. Last no loco. So yes, last week we did not do that. It seems like, oh my gosh, it's been 8 days since my last blog post too. The days are just ripping by. I was sick for a while. I got better. I got a cat. You have a live stream since I got the cat? No, we haven't. Got a cat to deal with vermin in the yard. Very nice cat. I should probably update the homepage because I haven't done that since the 13th. So yes, that's another thing. Why isn't it? It's weird. It's not letting me. There we go. So that's another thing that happened. I thought I was having allergies to the cat, but I picked up something at the expo second Saturday, and turns out it was probably COVID, since I lost my sense of taste, and I got over it. And then I decided to push myself and go out and do some things. And while very fun, was not the move. And thus I had to end up taking another day or two off this weekend to recuperate. So, hi Braden. I'm really a cat person. I am not a cat person. I'm going to type something on the homepage and just make a note on auction orders have begun to ship. USPS will forward tracking information, but it may go to spam or trash. So I've been burning the candle at every end, and it's just kind of how it is. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend. I am really going to cram a lot of work into the next 2 weeks because my birthday weekend, and a couple of other days after that, I want to take off to just kind of actually enjoy the summer and, among other things, Alan and Kai are going to Arizona, New Mexico, etc. And I had discussed that I could afford to go, but it's not looking like it's going to be viable in terms of schedule wise, my sanity, house situations stuff to go. So I'm going to be dumping a bunch of money on Alan to catch me things when he's out there. Um, I am at this point kind of just sort of putting a lot of things on a lot of trips and big things on the back burner until the house selling buying situation uh, becomes a bit more clear. It's looking like, with the way that interest rates are and some other things, moving within the next 6 months is probably not very viable. So in exchange for that, I'm looking into, we're doing the fall auction, but I want to do the Roach Crossing overhaul to get the site to its final stage. I mean, I like the site as it is, but there's some machinations that need to be some things that need to be optimized. I have sort of a final design in mind that I think will be a bit sleeker and more professional and easier to navigate. A bunch of information needs updating. Individual care pages, pictures need to be taken. There's a lot of stuff that really needs to be brought into the 2023th century. And so it seems like, hey, if I'm not going to be moving until next spring, this is really the time to hunker down and get this sort of stuff done and taken care of. So I'll be ready when the move does come, and I won't have to have this hanging over my head when I have other important things to do. So that's sort of where things are at right now. Very tired. Um, a lot of things to do, but I feel pretty. I feel now that I have my health back, I feel quite comfortable moving into the next week, and again taking my birthday off and some other days to relax and just kind of actually enjoy existing for a bit, and then back to the grind. You know how it is. People want me to talk about the cat. You look tired. I'm very tired. I woke up at 6:30 this morning, and I went to bed at probably 1:30. I think 1 o'clock, 1:30 ish. So and then I was doing more packing today, and packing slash shipping today, and then of course I have the stuff to take care of. Kind of on top of putting of refreshing containers that needed. I still have all these ones right here with their tags and a couple there that need stuff done. But other than that, I have a lot of supplies ready to just tear through that, so I'm not too concerned. Dynamo Terra, hello, good to see you. So, anyways, yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to a nice, peaceful evening going through cultures. I got a new Bluetooth stereo thing so I can listen to random obscure factoid video games, etc., pop culture things, YouTube videos while I'm going through the bugs. So, but anyways, the cat. So I have a cat now, and his name is Blue. The nicest cat that I have ever met in my entire life. I can name the nice cats that I've met. I can fit on one hand, and I'm not a cat person, but he Dan Griner from Limberlost Exotics has some barn cats, and he uses them for pest control. Very practical thing. And he's out in the middle of out in the country, and had a litter and handled them up. And how do you train him not to go for birds? So, hello, Jonathan. So basically, he's been getting a diet of a lot of live mice. So really, letting him hone in on that part of the instinct. I'm gonna see how he does with chickens, with chicks and whatnot, and see, because sometimes when you have very aggressive hens or you have a lot of big birds around, the cats sort of ignore the livestock like that. Silver Tear says he will still go for birds. I've considered a couple of things, such as using some training birds that have either vinegar or some insect defensive secretions on them. A lot of those things are meant to deter mammalian predators, and if his first experiences and first set of experiences with things that are feathered shaped and bird like are very distasteful, probably learn very quickly. It's a cat, so it's always going to have those instincts. But not a lot of we have a lot of birds here, but as for stuff that's on the ground, it's a lot of there's always house sparrows everywhere. And there are many. It is astounding to me how many cats there are in the neighborhood already. So we had, for ever since I moved in up until last fall, there was this one cat, Charlie, orange tabby, vicious creature. I tried to pet him once and got bit and clawed immediately, and definitely was not on my list of likable cats, that's for sure. So then he died, and then I think it was shortly before he died, there was a tabby, that mackerel tabby, that popped up that gave birth in my neighbor's garage. So then there was a bunch of babies from her. I think they got all those to homes or animal shelters. My neighbor did keep one of the babies. So then there's like a black munchkin cat I've seen wandering around. My neighbor Karen has a cat, a like 20-year-old white cat that she's had since she moved in. That's an indoor outdoor cat. She finds another orange tabby on her doorstep every morning apparently. And then last night I looked out of my bedroom window. I don't know why I was looking towards the front yard, but there was a black cat on my neighbor's driveway. I was like, where the hell are all these cats coming from? But of course, the backyard is completely fenced to prevent the dogs from getting out. And so when the cat's away, the rats shall play, or in this case, chipmunks and a lot of white-footed mice. And they've gotten to the point where they're uprooting my vegetables, and like I can come out in the morning and there'll just be a pile of mulch that I just put into a pot that's completely fenced off, that's been just dug out, and I'm very tired of that. So Zen Monkey says, I raised kittens in the bottom of my pigeon coops before, mixed results, but quite often it results in a cat that doesn't chase birds. Interesting. So yeah, I haven't logicked it out how things will work with the guinea pigs, but they're all in predator-proof enclosures anyways, so I'm not too worried about that. Maybe it'll be a problem when I move in the future, but cats do need to learn. They have to learn from their parents how to hunt. They have to learn from their mother how to hunt. In part, kittens that are not raised with their mom, and if their mom is not a good rodent catching cat, they are actually poorer hunters. So I'm curious if that translates over to sort of prey preference too. So her mom was definitely, or his mom was definitely a good mouser. Dan doesn't have any pest problems with the two cats on the property. And does have quite a few birds, but we'll see how things go. But I think letting him go after mostly rodents right now is the way to go. Very slim chance, but are there any minkinry people in the area who could do some pest control? That would be very interesting. Or ferreting would be very interesting. Maybe something I get into in the future. But like the dogs will go after larger rodents like rats. I have a picture somewhere of a rat that Victor caught in the winter. So they'll go after the larger stuff, but it's smaller rats and white-footed mice and the chipmunks, all the stuff that's on the small, medium side of things. And also, I remember when Charlie was working the neighborhood, any issues with the dogs being. Victor loves the cat. Victor was trying to mount the cat for like 10 minutes when I introduced the two of them. So he's good. Nazik is still learning. Nazik is a puppy and trying to play with a lot of things. And so she'll chase, like I have right now. I have one rabbit that's free range in the yard, one of the Flems, and the dogs and him get along fine. But Nazik does chase it, and that triggers him to run off to his little safe area. But the dogs don't follow up on it. All that Nazik does is just sort of chase them there. But the important thing is normalizing stuff to them. So hello, we got some eggs. I don't think I said hello to some eggs. And Jojo, welcome. Yeah, you got here at the perfect time. So I'm not. I was. My convincing for keeping the dogs with cats was done very soon into getting acquainted with Gompers. One of the, I think it was the first or second time that I went over to Darren Flagg's property, which is the breeder that produced Victor. He showed me into it's a property with a bunch of different buildings and houses and whatnot on it. And one of the houses, which is where he was keeping one of the male dogs when he wasn't outside. He had this huge Maine Coon just in the house with the dog, and I was just like, they don't do anything. They like each other. He's like, yeah, they're best friends. It's when there's a strange animal in the yard. He says, yeah, if another cat comes through the yard, though, all the dogs they'll eat it or tree it. So they really have to be introduced and accommodate or acquainted with the animals, and then you shouldn't have any problems after they sort of get that. So I was handling Baloo a lot, so I had his smell on me, and then I go see the dogs, and then went in the garage with the dogs and with Baloo, and making sure everybody's behaving nicely. And I think it's going to go pretty well. But Baloo does like them. I'm just concerned once he finally gets outside, whether if Victor's trying to hump him or follow him around, if that's going to spook him and cause him to run off and somewhere where I'm not going to be able to retrieve him initially. I know eventually I have only as much control as I think I have over where he ends up going, as long as I know where to put, when I supplement food, where to put that, he should be there. But I just want to make sure, while he's still a kitten, that things go as swimmingly as possible with everything, and that I don't end up having to chase a cat around the neighborhood. Although he's very friendly, he comes up to me. He's currently in the garage, which is where I think a lot of the center of activity is going to be moving into the winter. So I'll have the cat litter box in there, and it'll be the place. I might even leave the door open or install some quality dog door moving into the fall, so that the animals can use that as their shelter, and see how things go, shifting them to 24/7 working the yard. So that's Baloo has definitely changed my opinion of cats. Not that I knew that there couldn't be really nice cats. It just sort of made me realize just how feral and under-socialized a lot of cats are. Whether, I've never tried to adopt a cat, but just in general, what I've been doing with Baloo is, from the get-go, he was just a little pile of cuddle. And, I was working on, okay, well, let's get him acclimated to everything. Let's get him used to having his stomach touched and his feet touched. And Dan was already doing all of that. So I got him in a perfect mindset as is, but then going the next extra level. So I've been touching his little feet and giving him treats while touching his feet. And there's the little pull string to the attic in the garage. And so what I've been doing is I hold him up to the string and he wants to play with it. So he's batting at it and having a good time. And meanwhile, I'm holding his back legs and massaging his little toe beans and whatnot to sort of get him acclimated to that, not having quite as much of a pull away reaction. And it's been working really well. Not that he ever wanted to claw me or anything, but I figured that'll be good in the future if he needs to go to a vet or something's up with, and it's better to be able to touch them anywhere than not able to touch them at all. So I feel like that's been going pretty well. Has been going very well. Very nice cat, but he's definitely growing very tired of the garage and wanting to go out. And I need to have the time to let him out and be there to acclimate with him and make sure that he knows where home is relative to all the space that he's going to be able to go through. So another thing with the birds, though, is, when Charlie was around, actually when I moved in, I feel like we had the greatest bird biodiversity. Even though I've outfitted the whole front yard and backyard with native plants and stuff, I feel like we had the most bird biodiversity, but it could have also been because my neighbor was leaving out 50 pounds of whole corn in a giant tub in his backyard. And when you have infinite food, you bring in a whole suite of everything because everything's hungry when there's nothing to eat. So I feel like, I wonder if that factored into things. And then last year with DT doing all their stuff in the mid-spring to early summer, we kind of just had this gigantic dropout in the number of birds that we had because they were just going, right through all their habitat and cutting things down and making tons of noise. And so I feel like things have not as biodiverse as it has been in years past. And, some of that is I can plant my house and make it look nice, and so can a couple of neighbors, but you got to look at the bigger general trends for things. How many houses are cutting down trees? There have been a lot of tree removals lately. How many houses that are cutting down trees, are they replacing it with anything? Are they doing lawn? Are they doing bare dirt? What's the situation with that? Also, now that I think about it, they're down the street from me, Karen, Tim, and Joe's houses were all one wooded lot when I moved in. They had a dilapidated house that was on there, and then they bulldozed that and then put up several. They split the lot in three and put 3 new houses on it. So that's a chunk of area, and I don't think the people were ever really home either. They just sort of owned the property and would come and use it for events. So you basically had a giant untouched natural space there for a while, and then you sort of get rid of that, and just by virtue of losing some vegetation, even if a lot of it was invasive, you'll still lose some of the bird life there. So Nazi probably tried to take something from Victor. I heard some yiping and snarling. Speaking of which, since this is turning into a How Are All the Mammals stream, I legitimately feel kind of bad for Victor because Nazi will not leave him alone a lot of the times. Anytime she's awake, she wants to play. And I play with her, and when Angela's over, she plays with her. But she's a little puppy, but she's also very, very tenacious and wants to play very hard. And Victor is kind of tired. You guys probably noticed that, he doesn't come up to the door. You don't hear him whimpering to get into the room or anything like that. Because he basically spends his days, anytime that he's not sleeping, Nazik is pestering him. And so he's constantly entertaining her. And, she goes at him. She's so talkative, and she will just do this like fast bark snarling when she's playing, and she'll rear up on her back legs and she'll just lunge at him, and she'll go for his neck or for his ear. And he's just, you can see it in his eyes now, just how tired he is constantly. You can see it in my eyes how tired I am constantly, but really with him, how tired he is constantly. So I actually feel kind of bad for him. he's gone from really loving her every second. She doesn't let him hump as much anymore either because she's getting bigger. And when he tries to do that, she bites his face, and he's got this look on his face like, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm nice to you. Can I just have a little something? And she starts biting his face, and so she'll be standing up a little bit. Now she's learning, I just need to sit down, and he'll stop this, and um, then she'll go at him, and yeah, I feel bad for him that she doesn't she doesn't give him a little bit, uh, but yeah, they're definitely. I think when she gets older, she's going to be more dominant or more whatever your term out, whatever you prefer. She's going to be calling the shots out of the two of them because she does not back down unless he's really agitated. So I think that she's going to be the top dog, pretty sure, and she might end up being bigger than him. Also, her genetic testing came back free of all health conditions, etc. She does have a allele for lower liver enzymes. It's not an indication of genetic disease or poor health or anything like that. It's just a variation that some dogs have where certain liver enzymes levels will be lower than what is considered normal for most breeds. So it's basically if blood work is done on her for any reason and it comes back at the levels that a dog would normally have or higher than that, it's a sign that there's something going on that needs to be looked into. She has some sort of other health issue. So so everything's good for her. No genetic things or anything. Victor's going to get his hips, elbows, etc. x-rayed within the next couple of months for that final certification, and then he will be good to go for studying, should I choose to do that, and also for breeding too, as an exemplary member of his kind. So yeah, Braden says a tired dog is a happy dog. Not sure at being bitten though. She just is. I cannot believe the audacity she has to go up to an older dog and just bite his face and lunge at him and pull on his ears, and they'll be running and she'll chase him out of the house. Tennyson says to show Bug. I'm not really sure what I have to show. I guess we could look at, these are some crickets from the Imperial County sand dunes in, wow, did they already eat all the dog food? The Imperial County sand dunes in, I think, Glamis, California. They have a very large Grylis collection, and actually, if anybody in the States has a Similis from me, I lost that colony, and I really need to get them back. And the only option for me getting them back is going back to Florida and collecting them, or hoping that Carlos finally sends me a box of stuff. Which, by the way, Carlos, if you're hearing this, I know you're probably busy. I get busy all the time too. Please give me some of those crickets. I need to restart the colony. It's been like 2 years. So these are just somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, the Glamis sand dunes. I think I've got maybe about somewhere between 10 and 15 cultures of different cricket species going right now. One heck of an aesthetic, yeah. I've really been leaning into using pine cones for things. I hot water treat them and then allow them to dry to sort of get a lot of the resin off. And a lot of bugs really like them. They're really good for ectobioid roaches, and also really good for crickets because during the humid time of the year, it lets them get up and away from the substrate, and a lot of crickets really do not like extra moisture, so it's good to get them up and away from it. And there are a lot of eggs in here, so I'm going to get a hatch. It could be within the next couple of days, and from there I'll probably remove all of the ones that hatch out and start them in a final culture container. But it's actually funny. Not only is this the crickets from the sand dunes, this is actually sand from Glamis too. I have a person who collected me a big box of the sand from there, and hopefully will collect me more. It came in handy during the wintertime when I couldn't go and mine my own sand here. Some sorry I didn't answer your question. I was distracted by people asking for show bug. I've never had pet rats. My ex had them. One of them was a very pleasant animal. Their feet do give me little like hives. Not a big fan of that. And I actually find the smell of rats is probably one of the most disgusting animal smells to me, and it's a pretty high bar, but something about it is just I do not like the smell of rats. I actually like the muskiness of mice, but the smell of rats for some reason is I just do not like it. I just can't tolerate it even at very low levels. However, that being said, this is not stopping me from eventually I will when I move do an anti-cancer rat breeding project wherein I will cross a nice strain of domestic rats with some wild caught rats and try to get them to have a longer natural lifespan. So so that's for the future when I have an outbuilding or something that I can do that work in and give things a lot of space. So I'm not familiar with any of those genre Dynamoptera. Paramiscus, is that the genus that white-footed mice are in? Yeah. I tried to keep white-footed mice. I tried to keep them once, and I actually couldn't get reproduction out of them. It might have been because they were siblings. I caught all of them in a glue trap, and I painstakingly removed them all and set them up in an enclosure. I have a contact in Ohio who apparently has a good breeding colony of them. I may look into acquiring some eventually. I would rather work with the Santa Rosa beach mice again. I had those going for a couple of years, and I slacked off on feeding them insect protein frequently, and they did not like that. The colony declined pretty sharply after I stopped feeding them that. So in the future, I do have a contact who's working with them. I would like to keep the African pygmy mice too. But other than the Santa Rosas, I would really like to get again, as I would the African pygmy mice. But a lot of those mammalian projects I got to put on hold for I got put on hold until the move. I really in the last week have sort of sat down and thought out about what direction I want to take things for the next uh, 6 months. And part of it is it's summer. It's very difficult to not want to acquire a bunch of new bug cultures, but I've got to fight some of those urges because I'm spread pretty thin as I am, and I don't want to be taking on new projects while old ones fail. So it is important that I get to my stuff tonight and take care of a bunch of stuff on here so I can be in a comfortable position next week. And then for when Kai and Alan end up sending / bringing me back a bunch of new stuff. Dynamoptera, yes, they are commercially available. There is a strain of the Santa Rosas that was used for medical research, I guess, or just as lab animals. And they're difficult to acquire, and you kind of have to have the right channels of people to talk to. And it's like, oh yeah, I know a friend of a friend who has a colony in Texas, and I'm gonna get some when they have some ready. So you got to think like, okay, they're gonna have some ready. It sounds like if I want any, it's going to be a year and a half or 2 years before I can get some. And you just kind of have to accept that. So yes, but currently I'm satisfied with my house mouse projects. I have the um, house mice belly genetics. I am for this being like my main project. House mice. I constantly mess up which one of these alleles I'm selecting for in this project, and I always have to come back to this article on house mice genetics to figure out what it is, if it's a agouti positive or A positive or what. House mice agouti genetics. Let's see if I can find it. There's one really good picture of it somewhere. They have them both by the scruff, and they're showing off the difference. Here we go. And I've probably given this feel already, so but oh well. It's white-bellied agouti and wild-type agouti, and it's the white-bellied agouti, this allele, that I have had this obsession with breeding for. And it's because a friend of mine, Joshua Wiss, who lives in Ohio now, he caught some barn mice, and he kind of sold me on how U.S. lines of domestic mice don't have this allele in them, and that apparently getting a good line of these going would be helpful in making a tricolor mouse. And I forget exactly what his chain of logic was and what he was saying, like, oh, you would breed this to this, and instead of you having a fox or a tan tricolor, you have a this, and then you could layer up these other traits on it. So it just made me think, this sounds like an obscure enough thing that would be easy enough to do. And so I started doing it, and so now I have some nice pretty tame. They're definitely not wild mice. They're definitely not psychotic like wild mice, but they're pretty tame of these white-bellied agouti mice going on now. And my next goal is I'm going to get a show line of them going. So I have gotten some show line mice that have the longer tails and the bigger bodies and the bigger ears, and I've crossed this other line into that. So I'm going to work on making a show line of them, of just agoutis with this white-bellied agouti allele, and then I'll have my standard feeder line of them. It's actually interesting. I think it only took 4 or 5 generations to breed most of the other color mutations out of them with some good selection, because I crossed them to some just Petco piebalds or pieds or whatever. And then my software projects have been getting a nice line of pink-eyed whites, and then I don't want to go super platinum, which is the solid white ones. I'm gonna put a little Kyle twist on it, where I've noticed you can get them to keep a lot of their ear and their scrotum color, so you don't have to breed them to be black eyes, pink ears, pink everything with white fur with no other markings. I'm going to see how I can get it to just sort of stop at this mouse that would have just black ears and a black scrotum. And that actually has, I feel like that actually has some value, because the females, the labia, or whatever the structure that the mice have, it's probably a labia, doesn't get as black as the scrotums do on those mice. So it actually makes sexing them a lot easier, a lot faster, because you could confirm, you can double check for testicles, but you can look and say, oh, these have an entirely black region down there, and these other ones just have a little strip of it. It'd be a lot easier to just sex them that way too. So I think that's where I'm taking that project. And then I think they're pink-eyed whites or something like that, where they're like cinnamon with the dilution or whatever. So they basically look like standard amelanistic or albino lab mice or rats, but it's a different combination of characteristics and soft furs apparently. So it's not just a single gene, it's a multi-gene thing going on to get them to look that way. And then I have my cinnamons and my agoutis, and I think that's what I'm comfortable with for now. Bentley Angel Decau, I think you're new here. If you are, welcome. Asked, how do you rear grylus eggs in juveniles and wanting to culture some sort of cricket or katydid, but been paranoid about cannibalism? So with bugs, don't worry about cannibalism. For the most part, a lot of things can be kept together, and if they don't, you're going to find out really quickly. And with crickets, it's not really an issue as long as you're providing enough food. Uh, More of an issue is Grylus are can be very susceptible to fungus outbreaks. To I don't think it's trichoderma. It's a orange or a yellowy, really powdery one. And so I almost lost my Akita and my Grylodes when summer hit because of the air humidity increase, and I had a lot of mold pop up in their containers that were otherwise doing very well, and I was able to pull them both out of it. So, anyways, yeah. So high ventilation, dry except for an egg laying corner. People are always, if you want to maximize your cricket production, you're gonna want to keep pulling egg cups and do the egg cup method. If you want to just culture them and have like a big colony with a lot of mixed stage individuals, you can do that. Pulling egg cups is just to maximize how many you produce. And most Grylus you can keep just like Akita and produce thousands of them very quickly. But again, if it's too humid, you're going to lose a lot of them very quickly, and they will go into this death spiral and not pull out of it. So right now, there's some of my cricket cultures where I'm very paranoid to add water, and they do still need to drink. I have fruit jellies or fruit in with them, but so I just missed very quickly and very lightly through the side, and that just sort of gives them the opportunity to get some water without being constantly humid. Allie Lass says, my Hemiphylaris elate is bred successfully. I found eggs and grubs the other day. Congrats, Allie. That was from the auction, the spring auction that you got those, I think. Some eggs. What is your favorite or easiest small mammal you've kept? I really love mice. I really do love my mice projects. I would like to, when I have more space, produce Siamese, or at least find Siamese again. I'd like to get some nice Angora mice going too. They're just the high reproductive rate. I can feed them dog food just like I feed everything except for the dogs and the cat, I guess. But I guess the cat is actually technically being fed dog food because the mice and the soft furs only get dog food, and so by like the transitive property, the mouse is or the cat is basically eating just dog food. It's just there's extra steps in between. So I do really love the mice. My soft furs are very nice too. Mine are not evil, so I can pick them up and work with them. And I would imagine if I spent a lot of time with a couple of individuals, I could get them to be very good quality pets. But for now, it's just breeding. Getting these colonies traits fixed. I still have cinnamons popping up in agoutis. It's just going to be that way for a while until as I ruthlessly call all the cinnamons that pop up. Cinnamons are proven out; they don't have any other traits. The pink-eyed whites or amber-eyed whites or whatever they are, those are probably within 2 or 3 generations of being very consistent. And I don't know how long the black scrotum line is going to take, but with some of these multi-gene things, it can take more generations. But at some point, with enough inbreeding, you kind of get things fixed pretty well. The only things I've noticed with inbreeding with the soft furs is some will have an ear crease or like a kind of folded ear, and some will have very sparingly some tail kinks, but I just call those ones. So it doesn't seem to be a big issue. Every time I pick breeders out, I'll run my finger up the whole tail and I'll check to make sure their spine is straight too. So it's more about not letting the ones that have those traits breed than it is anything inherently wrong with crossing them together. Bentley asks if I've ever kept Egyptian spiny mice. Used to have a trio and they were so interesting. Definitely not what I was expecting. I've had an opportunity to get 1 or 2 species and 1 or 2 color morphs of spiny mice, one of which was earlier this year. And again, I kind of was like, yeah, I could, but I don't want to take on another project right now. And I think it was the wise move because I see them pretty regularly, even if not that other species. But I'm in touch with that rodent producer. So if I ever want them again, I can probably get them. Maybe it'll take 2 years or 3 years, but I can probably get them again. So yeah, but the Santa Rosas I will definitely make time and space for if I am able to get them again in the future. Uh, Muti, welcome. I think you're new too. We may have a lot of new people here. That's great. That's good to hear. Good to see, even though I'm exhausted today and not giving it my all. Um, I'll still try. How do you buy online? I looked on your website and there's no purchase button. Muti, you need to go to the contact order/contact us page, which is in the top bar if you are on desktop. I think it's in the sidebar if you're on mobile. And there are two emails that you can use depending on if you are a private collector or a zoo, academic institution, research entity, etc. And simply message me what you'd like to buy, how much of it, and I will let you know if it's in stock. And what if you give me your zip code, I can also give you a shipping quote as well. Braden wishes that roaches had scrotums. Maybe they do on the inside since all their genitalia are internal. Maybe there is a very vaguely homologous scrotum-like structure in roaches. I have not checked lately. Maybe one day we can go looking for the elusive roach scrotum on the live stream when I have a camera rig and inlay and whatever going on. Do roaches have testicles? Yes, they do have testicles. I don't know if here's the thing is I'm not sure if all these structures are homologous in all these different organisms. Roach, internal anatomy, testicles. Surely they have. Yes, they have a pair of testicles located on the lateral sides of the 4th to 6th abdominal segment. Yeah, between like the 10s and the like 80s, there was a lot of money poured into like insect research and a lot of very good graphics and images derived during that time. And then onwards, people copy it and they remix it and redistribute it. But I'm not too surprised that it's easy to find out whether or not they do. But I would imagine that most animals, most maybe not. I don't know if testicles are a homologous structure among all the things that have them. Almost nothing is homologous, just analogous. I think I might want to do some future reading on this because you would think that gametes are kind of a homologous structure among animals. Satchel found a very interesting INET observation. Sent it to Alan. He might be able to check it while out west. What was this interesting thing? I traced in the link in chat, but I don't think it'll go through. If you send on the Discord, I'll pull it up right now, and maybe I can discuss it for a bit here and see what interesting, spicy thing it may be. I think somebody just asked if there are parthenogenetic insects, and there are. Yeah, somebody answered. Some eggs was on that. There are many. There are many parthenogenetic cockroaches, as a matter of fact. Whoa. That is an interesting image there. In San Diego. Oh, I see Alan already commented on it. That's very interesting. Yeah, I lost my Dryma planeta colony, and I'm still not really sure why. I'm wondering if it was, again, the humidity boogeyman, because they did very well all through the summer last year and into the early fall, and then I lost them like midwinter-ish. So I'm wondering if they just needed consistently high humidity, and that kind of like Paraplaneta brunea and Neostylopiga, even bouts of time in places with like a good movement of dry air is just enough to just exhaust them, and you basically can't water them enough to get them the humidity they want. You have to restrict ventilation. So, but hey, at least this time, if I work this time that I had them, at least I got a ton of babies out of them. So that's good. So I at least know how to get them to reproduce. It wasn't anything particularly special. Now it's just dissecting and finding out how not to screw it up, which isn't always the worst thing. I was just thinking about this again. Somebody is placing an order for some lawn shrimp, and I remember there was a point in time up until maybe like, I don't know, 4 years ago, where I was still struggling with lawn shrimp husbandry, and I was like, how do I mass produce them? I need to make more of them. Oh, I keep almost losing the culture. What am I doing wrong? And then now I've just kind of figured it out, and I don't even think about them. It's like, oh, this is one of the colonies I have that the sun could go out and they'd be fine for a couple of months. So it's interesting how perspectives change over time with our experience and the things that we figure out. So, but I mean, still, if Alan goes and collects from wherever that is, or figures out more about that INAT observation, that would be an easy way to get them going again. So, some eggs is asking, yeah, I guess I can post in the chat. Let me pull it up in my history again. It's a report of a potential Dryma planita semivita from California, which isn't too crazy considering the things do get around. They got from, I want to say they're invasive in New Zealand from Australia or vice versa. But, they're coming in on wood and pallets and stuff like that. Again, we're just going to have to figure out what it is that they kind of want. Oh, there's like an interesting earwig or something on that board or whatever that is that guy's got there. That's kind of weird. Still trying to figure out what happened with my Labradora riparia culture, because I'm upset that I lost those. But at least I do have four other earwigs going consistently now. Another bug is the Necrobia rufipes. So Will and I started that culture with the ones that we found at the Menards, and they did okay for a grain pest. I put them on what they were found on in their natural habitat of the pallets at the bottom of the shelf at Menards, and they didn't really do too much. I had some new adults pop up, but it just was not the satisfactory results that I would expect from a grain pest species or from a pest species. And so then I did a little bit more research, and I did a little bit of playing around with feeding them different things, and found out that. And then I also a huge part of this actually was seeing Necrobia violacea. Yes, Necrobia violacea in the wild, which was on some goat carcasses at my friend Mike's farm, and they were just having a bug rave in the fat and the sinew and stuff of these goat carcasses. And you would think that like predators and stuff would go for that, or scavengers would go for that stuff. But a lot of stuff doesn't seem to like fat when it's putrescent or when it's not mixed with meat. I would have thought the coyotes would have been all over those bones, but there was very substantial amount of fat left on a lot of those carcasses. And so then I sort of put two and two together and realized that Necrobia, their niche is that they're fat digesters on rancid or old or lardered stuff. And so then I switched my approach with the Necrobia, and I put them on. I went to one day, Menards had it for sale. They don't always have, or not Menards, Walmart had it for sale, but they had beef tallow, just a big chunk of beef tallow for like $10. So I bought that. I set up a new big superculture enclosure for the remaining Necrobia rufipes. And before that, actually, I had tried using bird suet, which has all the grain and stuff mixed into it. And I realized that the Necrobia larvae were boring into it, or maybe the eggs were being oviposited deeper into the suet. And realized that I was saving the culture, getting it going again by using the suet. And so I decided, well, I'll just get them a chunk of fat because that's what they're on. Necrobia is on in the wild. Put the chunk of fat in there, waited some time. There's all kinds of weird little curled poops from the adults all over it. They haven't really put a dent in it, honestly. I think that piece of fat will probably last that culture for another. I don't want to eat my words later, but I'm going to say 2 years. That one singular piece of fat might last them for 2 years. So, and then now there's a bunch of fresh adults at closing, and they're doing great. So I got to restart my Violacea colony and then go for the third species that's introduced in the U.S. I can't remember what it was. So, but anyway, so that's one. Now it's like, well, now I cracked the code. I don't have to do anything with them. They're just gonna be happy and successful on their own, and so I don't have to overthink it or worry about it. And sometimes it's just making those big breakthroughs in husbandry, and everything just gets so much easier, which is basically how I've gained the number of bugs that I have over the years. But it's always sucks to lose cultures too. Satchel, congrats! You got sap beetles. Sap beetles breeding. I wonder what species. I need to get the Michigan ones actually this summer. That's an easy thing I can get and throw into a container. Because the ones from Tuscaloosa from 3-4 years ago, those are octomaculatus. So I need to get the ones from Michigan again. I have to ask, wouldn't the smell get pretty putrid if it sits for that long? Just curious. And new to bug keeping in general. Welcome, Carrie. You would think, and that's what I was kind of prepared for. I thought, oh, this is going to get really gross smelling. But fat does not seem to like get putrid, like unless it's been contaminated or like sitting outdoors in nature and is getting continually wetted and stuff like that. The fat really is not breaking down. It's like, think about like how salted butter, you can leave it out for a very long time and it still be edible to humans. So there actually is there's no bad odor at all to that enclosure, and it's bone dry except for the fat, and the Necrobia can obviously get all the moisture that they need right from the fat, as can their larvae, so I never have to water it. So there's no rotting going on. It's just sort of sitting there and they're eating through it. So it actually just smells a little bit like raw beef, and there's no putrescence whatsoever. There's no phorid flies being attracted to or breeding on it. So fat and tallow are different. Tallow does not rot very quickly at room temperature. Let's see what tallow is made out of. Animal fat that conforms to certain technical criteria, including its melting point. So it's a special type of fat. It is a fat, but it's not all fats are the same, apparently. And this is just from gleaming all the stuff I've just Googled. So, but yeah, it seems those bonds might be kind of difficult for things to break that don't have specific enzymes for them. So again, I was very shocked to see on those old goat carcasses that there was tons of fat left. There's all kinds of, there's skin and there's fur, and there's just tons of fat left on them, and that's what the Necrobia and a couple of other things were on. So Mike's supposed to bring me some Violacea, I think, at the next expo, and I don't feel bad about taking 10 minutes to set up an enclosure for them, because it should be just like the rufipes, where they're just going to last for years. And I like that. I like grain pests for that reason. Obviously, I like pest insects because of their ease of care in general. So, but yeah, so that's where that's at. And then eventually I'll go after that other species. Just just for poops and giggles. I'm gonna see what that third species is in the U.S. Maybe eventually I'll care enough to put out a bounty for it, but I kind of figure I'll come across it eventually. Just like after getting the Rufipes and finding out about Violacea, I was like, oh, maybe I've seen this before. Maybe I could look for it. And then I just, came across it completely randomly. So, let's see where Ruficalis is from. See if there's any INAT reports. It's probably just random chance. Maybe there's got to be some slight differentiation and preferences for these guys in terms of state of decomposition or overall humidity, or if they like mammal or bird fat more. But I'm not gonna make it a priority. It'll happen eventually, and I'll be happy about it. So let's see. Yeah, there's just kind of reports just scattered here and there. Oh, here's one from the that's from Canada, but it could be stateside too. It's just on a goldenrod flower at August 14, 2022. So you just uncounted it randomly, unless of course this is one of those situations where it's like, oh, these don't actually. Nope. Here's a picture of some on a dead sheep. So never mind. They're still necrophiliacs. But maybe they eat pollen in the meantime when they're not breeding on carcasses. So anyway, so I'll get those eventually. I actually think that might be. All three species are pretty nifty. I just like that one because it has more of the red and orange on it. Here's one on some dead mealworms. It looks like Necrobia ruficalis. So I don't know. Satchel says, my grain pest cultures are still being infested with grain mice, but they don't really seem to be affecting the cultures, just annoying. So I moved before the summer set in. I moved both of my Cytophilus species to tiny critter keepers with the muslin underlays. And last year at this time, for the last couple of years, especially in I haven't looked at Cytophilus on my website. Not Granarius, it's the other species. I used to think it was Oryzi. Zea mays. Cytophilus zea mays weevils. So they seem to carry some sort of maybe a fungus or something in their gut. It might be a mutual relationship wherein this fungus or whatever it is helps them break down the carbohydrates more energetically efficiently. And one of the products of that seems to be water. And so the Cytophilus culture would just get so moldy and gross and wet during the summer, even when it was completely dry all winter, and even if fresh material was added. Again, humidity, blah blah blah. So I decided to do this full top ventilation setup now, and it's working great. There's no buildup of water. It worked fine throughout the winter too. So sometimes it's just sort of changing things up a little bit that helps. Lorraine Case is, at least in terms of cooking, tallow and lard both have had all the protein and water boil out. Tallow is from beef, lard is from pigs. All right, Lorraine, that's probably the key here, is that tallow has had all the water removed from it, or most of the water removed. And without the water, it's not as inclined to rot to go putrescent from bacteria, etc. And that's where the beetles come in. They find dry carcasses in the wild with the fat that has dried out on old bones and all the sinew and stuff after scavengers have picked it over. And that seems to be their niche, is they go in and they utilize that dry fat. I would bet that the beetles have some way of getting water from the fat in some way, or they may just need very little water in the first place. Carrie says, I did have a sea splice that should be shipped out this week from you. Is there any sort of temp control? Make sure it arrives uncooked. Just know the temps haven't been the best recently. Carrie, yes, it was shipped this week, and the temp control is good ventilation. So it's covered under live arrival guarantee stuff on my website. but I really don't worry about the temperatures during the summer of shipping. Really, it's temperatures below about 20 degrees Fahrenheit that cause the most problems with bugs when they're shipped, if they're shipped properly. If you ship bugs, if you ship a bunch of isopods or something in a no ventilated cup with wet sphagnum moss, you're going to cook them during the summertime. So all my containers are ventilated appropriately for what's inside of them, and so this allows for the vaporized water to dissipate into the box. Not make it soggy or wet or anything like that, but just leave the cup so that when the temperature rises, they don't get steam cooked, and things are fine with that. Tennyson, I do not currently keep maculatus, but I'm looking for them, and very, very passively. I'd probably go to U of M at some point in this summer, maybe in August, like I did last year when I got the species from Dearborn. So it's actually my pests are in cups with the cloth lids. Is it one layer of cloth or multiple layers? And also taking into account how big the surface area of the hole is, because if you've got a smaller bottle or a smaller um, mouthed jar, that can actually lock in a surprising amount of humidity, especially in the lower layers of the substrate, versus with the cytophilus that I have going now with the critter keepers is a very high surface area and not a very deep substrate, so it allows things to dry out or at least be more ventilated deeper. Correct. If it even gets a drop of water in the jar, it starts to mold. I'm assuming that's for tallow. Lesson from today: water ruins everything. Hello, let there be lamppost. Lots of new people today. I'm very happy to welcome everybody to the stream. I guess it's ending up being more of an average general stream length rather than short. Even though I'm so tired, but I am starting to get the itch to work on my cultures of things, because especially like I just set up a new culture of woolly mammoth springtails, and it was Kyle doing the bare minimum to keep things going, and it just showed me how clutch just doing the bare minimum sometimes is. So I had a culture of woolly mammoth springtails that I started in February or March, and it was just a deli cup, and they did really well in there, and they exploded numbers. And then at some point, again, as spring went on, the air humidity went up or something, or whatever happened in the enclosure that happens every spring happened, and I noticed they started looking a bit more beat up. And I was like, I should probably move a couple of these to a new culture. So I did that. I took the time. I sterilized a new 32-ounce cup, and I moved a couple of the Velosa to that shortly after the main colony completely crashed. Like, okay, I guess I made the right move, but we'll see if moving containers was a smart play if they were going to crash anyways. And no, they rebounded from the 20 or so that I put in the cup. And so now going into the summer, I had this good established colony of woolly mammoth springtails. And then these critter keepers have been working perfect, or faunariums have been working perfect for the springtails over the summer and during the winter, but surprisingly well at keeping them dry, but just moist enough that they don't completely desiccate over the summer. And so yeah, I just finally decided to make the next step and move the Velosa into a new critter keeper. And I think I started them off a little bit more moist than I wanted to, and so I'm kind of like wondering if I should check. Wondering if there's not really anything I can do. I just have to. The thing I can do is not do anything, not any water when I do that. Satchel, yeah, with those cloth lids, there's still plastic in between the weave on those, so it does kind of restrict some of the airflow. Not a lot, but I definitely go in this route with the critter keepers for stuff that ends up getting too watery. So it's been a long live stream. It's been running since the 19th. Has it? No, it hasn't. Oh boy, but yeah, I'm very tired, guys. And now that I got a lot of those orders out this week, I'm really looking forward to again taking some downtime and going through some of these cultures. And here, On my to-do list board, I have in like all bold, like all bug husbandry. So within the next 5-ish days, I've got to go through and everything's getting fed, everything's getting checked on, and any of the containers that are showing declines or need to be refreshed or this or that. So all these things with the pink tabs, I've got to take and process, except for some of this stuff. Some of these are just air in Vega that need to be upgraded. But it's so humid in here that, well, it was earlier when it rained. It was like 76% humidity, but it's been so humid in here, and I haven't been running a fan. I got this fan on so that I don't steam myself to death. Title says the 19th. Oh, that's I'm gonna have to fix that in post, actually, Chris. Anyway, sorry if that caused anybody any confusion. I think I made it yesterday or the day before. That might have been why I just looked like, oh, that's the day of the live stream. But anyways, yeah. So the air in a veg are able to get moisture. They are able to basically drink the air when it's this humid. So the enclosure can be completely dry, and the air in a vega are actually completely comfortable. Whereas if their enclosures were like this and it was wintertime, all my air in a vega would be dead. Without frequent watering, because they can't, when the air is dry, they can't use their weird pharynx adaptation to get the moisture from it. I think it's getting time to be show bug again. That's some weird wording there. Let's see, what do I even have on hand that's up here right now? I guess I could show one. Will you email tracking number? If I don't know a package is coming, it will get left a package. Lorraine, I believe your box was shipped this week, and USPS should have forwarded the tracking information. But I have this on my TOS, and a lot of people don't see it. But usually it goes to spam or trash. There's nothing I can do about that. It's just the email sorting system. But with every time I make a label, if I have an email address available for the person that it's going out to, there will be a an automatic email. Lorraine, let's see. I'll have to look into your. I'm going to be doing emails tomorrow, so I need to see what's up with that, because for some reason I'm not seeing it on the shipped out stuff. So I will contact you likely tomorrow about that. So. And again, even if it's 100 degrees, you're covered under my live arrival guarantee stuff. So again, I do not fear the heat. It's not a big issue. As a matter of fact, I don't know if I told this. I probably brought this up in a live stream after it happened, but I'll bring it up again. On the fish day, where we did a whole day of going out and going to fish stores, I turned and this was in February, so the room naturally gets colder, but it's also when the whole house is being heated. But I left my handy dandy heater here in the room on the second or third setting, thinking I would blast it in the morning before I left the house to go do the fish store hopping day, and I would turn it off before I left. And I did not turn it off before I left. We were gone basically funny thing was we actually came home at some point because I had to let Victor out. We came back here at some point, and I didn't check this room, so the heater continued to run. And finally, when I came in the evening to show Kai something, realized that I had left the heater on all day. So I think the temperature that the thermometer read in here was either 103 or 109 degrees, and I was like, oh man, this is the pits. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen. I had at least one very special culture in like a almost closed container next to a heat source, so the temperature in that container maybe got as high as like 130 degrees or something. And then I went around, I had my headlamp on, and I looked in all the containers, and pretty much everything was completely unaffected. I would have thought that I would have seen some frantic behavior in the enclosures, like, if they were scrambling up the sides, trying to get out, trying to get away from the heat. But no, pretty much everything was everything was completely fine. And so the room had probably gotten that warm and stayed that warm for a couple of a few hours, maybe even half the day. But again, the magic of ventilated containers, um, and of course wintertime too, because the humidity is not as smothering then. So I do not fear excessively warm temperatures. Maybe if somewhere got to the 120, but for the most part, you'd be surprised how much air transfer there is out of a unpoked cardboard box. There's a surprising amount of airflow. So with that being said, guys, I think I'm going to wrap up this live stream. I'm glad it got to be a little bit longer than usual, and I'm also happy that I have just enough brain cells left to get to doing some husbandry in here tonight. I hope that next week, which is the 27th, so coming up on the end of July here, so all the auction orders are going to be shipped by August 1st. So that's another thing that I have to keep my mind set on for the next 11 days. So next week's going to be fun, but taking it all in stride. And of course, the beautiful summer weather, and I have a staycation to look forward to. So, and my health, I'm very happy to have my health back. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this Roach Wiggle. I will see everybody next week. Catch some cool bugs. Let me know. I still have some bounties on some stuff up on the website, and you never know what I'm looking for. So if you find anything cool, feel free to message me. Again, I am trying to be kind of choosy with the stuff that I'm getting right now. But like if somebody had a like Midwestern genotype Pelodnota punctata female that they just caught in their backyard, I could not say no to that because I really want those. So, okay, bye everybody, and until next week, may your cultures ever be bountiful.